Ladies and gentlemen, give a very warm Asian Business Awards welcome to Mr. Zach GoldSmith. Now, Zach, before I start, I just want to make something very clear, that you may have been nervous, of course, being in a room here, and that your rival is Asian, you're in a room full of Asians, but, and I just want to make this very clear, as anyone who's flown Air India knows, the white guy will always be treated better than the brown people. So, don't worry, you're with friends here, Zach. Okay, you'll be treated well. Now, let's get down to the business. What do you think qualifies you best to be the next mayor of London, Zach?
Thank you very much. I'm going to start by saying I'm already being treated well. This is another magnificent Solansky production, as it has been every time, and it is a joy to be here. So thank you for your hospitality, delicious food, and everything else. To your question, I think to be a good politician, to be a good councillor, to be a good member of parliament, to be a good mayor of London, you need to be able to hold government to account when you think the government gets it wrong, and you need to be able to get a good deal from government for the people you represent. And I believe that that defines what I have been doing as a working MP over the last 6 years. I was elected in what was a comfortable Lib Dem seat. I was elected on the back of a long list of promises that I made to my future constituents, and I kept those promises day in, day out over the 5 or 6 years that I represented my constituents, and that's why at the last election I was returned with the biggest increased majority of any sitting MP in the country. A big green light from the people who know me best, because they know that when I make a promise, I deliver. And I think that is what makes a good politician. It's amazing how boastful you become when you're in an election, but you have to do it. I apologize.
Yeah, well, you don't need to keep going on about your big majority. It's a little boasting there. What makes you the friend of small and medium businesses? I mean, we know that there are something like 800,000 small and medium businesses in London. Half of the employment is employed by them. You know, as well as was pointed out earlier by Kalpesh Solanki, 95% of convenience stores and newsagents are run by Asians, half of the pharmacies. Tell me, what makes you the friend of small and medium-sized businesses?
Well, first, the figure's actually more. It's nearer 1 million businesses in Greater London, and the vast majority, well over 95% of them, are small and medium-sized businesses, and they underpin our economy. When they do well, London does well. When they suffer, London suffers. They are the things that create the jobs and opportunities, not politicians, it's businesses. And I'm proud to be part of a government that has done everything it possibly could since 2010 to help our businesses across the board. And today in London, the fact is we have more jobs than we've ever had in this city, in the history of our city. We have more businesses today than we have ever had. 250,000 more today than we had in 2008. And just 2 days ago, we had a budget from the Chancellor which was very pro-business. Big extension of business rate relief to help our small businesses, capital gain tax reductions, corporation tax reduction. It was a very pro-business budget, and I'm proud of that. If I win the election on May the 5th, my principal job will be to ensure that London provides as business-friendly an environment as it is possible to be. And that means dealing with issues that everyone else is worried about. It means dealing with the housing crisis. It means building more homes. It means making London more affordable for Londoners. If people are priced out of their own city, that's not good for anyone. It is a disaster for businesses wanting to recruit people. It's a disaster for Londoners as a whole. I regard that as the principal job of the next Mayor of London.
Zach, I'd like to get a show of hands from you, if I may. How many of you in this room feel that it is better for business to stay in a reformed European Union? Put your hands up if you think it's better for business to stay in a reformed European Union. Okay. How many of you, for balance, because of course I work for the BBC, how many of you feel that we'd be better off outside of the EU? I'd say the ins have it, wouldn't you? I mean, just let's be completely objective about that. The saying ins have it. Now you're a Brexiteer. Tell me why the people who believe that we would be better off, the businessmen in this room and women, why are they wrong?
I'm going to answer that question with two answers, if I can. The first one is to say that I have a job to do. I am the only Conservative mayoral candidate, and I have a job to do between now and May the 5th to persuade Londoners to make what I hope many will agree will be the right choice. London is at a crossroads. We can go forward with what Boris has done. We can build on that success. We can make it work for all Londoners, or we can take what I would believe is a giant step backwards into the dark. That is my job. I have to persuade as many people as possible between now and May the 5th, and that's all I'm doing. So at this stage, my vote on Brexit is no more valuable than the 48 million other people who are going to be grappling with this issue. And the second point I'd make is that the Mayor of London, the next Mayor of London, will not be charged with taking us out of Europe or keeping us in Europe. The next Mayor of London's job is to make work whatever decision is made by the British people in this democracy. Now, my own view, as an individual, as one of the 48 million people, is that we would be better off out of Europe. And there are a wide range of reasons for that. But I believe London is the most important city on earth. We are part of the 5th biggest economy on earth. Soon, if trends continue, the 4th biggest economy on earth. We have a big and bright and glorious future, whatever decision we take, but I believe we will have a better future if we come out of Europe. We'll have a more democratic country. We'll have politicians making decisions on our behalf who we can sack if we don't agree with those decisions. And I believe that we'll benefit from a global immigration program as opposed to one which is distorted by a free movement within Europe. So for those reasons and many more, I think we'd be better off out.
I'd like to talk to you about a leaflet that you're well aware of that was sent out to the Indian community. It talked about Tamil gold, for instance, being under threat if Sadiq Khan gets in, a wealth tax that would affect Tamil community and their gold. Also, as well, the Sikh community were rather annoyed because it targeted Sikhs, but it seemed like just kind of Hindu Indians, and the Sikh community complained that it was crass and it was vulgar. Would you like to apologize for sending out that leaflet? Because it looked like tokenism to a lot of people.
Not at all, not at all. My job over the next 48 days is to reach out to every single part of London. And that means reaching out to every community within London. I have not had an event, a public meeting or a breakfast, coffee morning or any kind of session with members of the British Indian community where concerns around crime, concerns around burglary, fears of the fact that people's homes are being targeted because there is a disproportionate amount.
But wasn't it scaremongering though, Zach?
Not at all.
Burglaries have gone down.
No, that's not true. They've gone up, unfortunately. In the last 6 months, burglaries have gone up, as have most forms of crime across London, from scams all the way to...
So under Boris's watch?
Under Boris's 8 years, crime has come down significantly.
But burglaries have gone up.
Over the last 6 months, we have had a spike of all forms of crime. That's a mathematical fact. I don't think the figures are arguable. We've had a great story on crime over the last 8 years under Boris, but all forms of crime have been on the rise for the last 6 months, which is why we need to protect police resources. It's why they need the tools and the backing and the resources that they're going to need to keep us safe. There's no arguing that.
Have you sent a leaflet out to the Pakistani community?
I was at a mosque handing out leaflets this morning, at lunchtime, in fact.
What does your leaflet to the Pakistani community say? The one to the Indian Hindu community was talking about Narendra Modi and was talking about various other things. What is your targeted thing of the Pakistani community?
I'll tell you in a second, but I question the premise of your question. Putting a leaflet out of a picture of myself with Mahendra Modi, which was one of the great highlights of my career in politics. To be able to greet Mahendra Modi as he arrived at Wembley was a great moment. It's something I'm very proud of. I enjoyed hearing his speech. With the help of an earpiece in my ear, I was able to understand his speech. And I love the fact that he pointed to the 60,000 people in this huge arena, it was like a rock concert, and said that each and every one of you is a bridge between our two great countries. It was a very emotional moment.
Quite, but what about the Sikh community's criticism, Zach, that you didn't see their own concerns within that you sent it out, blanket out to all Indians, assuming all Indians were one very narrow... Well, that's what the Sikh community and Sikh updates, you've seen it, that's what they've said.
It's not true. I have written letters to different parts. I've written letters to elderly people, reinforcing dealing with the concerns they have around Freedom Pass. I've written letters to the Jewish community, talking about the rise of anti-Semitism. I've written letters to the Sikh community, talking about issues relating to the Sikh community, issues that have been raised with me by supporters of my my campaign who belong to the Sikh community. You asked me about my leaflet today. It was very clearly and very simply about my record as an MP. My record as someone who makes promises and keeps those promises, which I think is the most important ingredient if you want to be a good politician. But my job is to reach out to every part of the community, and the message in every piece of literature that has gone out in my name is the same. It's about more homes, it's about better transport, it's about safer streets, and it's about making London the greenest city on earth. That message is central no matter who I'm speaking to.
You will be aware now, as I'm not sure many people in the audience will be aware, that Ian Duncan-Smith has resigned from the cabinet. Now, you have been asked to step down as a patron of a disability charity because you voted for disability cuts. Why did you do that? Why did you vote to take money out of the pockets of some of the most vulnerable people in this country?
So first of all, on the charity, I have a long record of working. It was a charity called Richmond Aid. I've worked very closely with Richmond Aid for many years. I have a good relationship with Richmond Aid. They will tell you, if they were here now, as they have told the newspapers, that I have worked closely with them. I've helped their clients. We have a good relationship. That doesn't change. I am the MP for Richmond Park and North Kingston. My job is to represent the people who are their clients, and that will continue for as long as I remain an MP. The relationship is a good one. On the ESA cuts themselves, well, the philosophy behind the ESA cut is very simply that people are best helped if they're helped into work. So the approach by the government has been to provide, out of the savings that they're making, a £100 million fund whose only purpose is to help people who struggle to get back into work to get back into work. Now, the concerns that have been raised by that charity, by their clients, and by very many other people around the country are that people who are not fit to work will be designated or defined or categorized as if they are fit to work. And that clearly is a legitimate concern. But it is for the government to persuade people that that is not going to happen. And it's for people like me, MPs representing my constituents, to ensure that the government is held to account. That's our job. Now, I've raised concerns with ministers, as I'm sure any other MP in this room today will have done so. The job of the government is to bring in policy. The job of MPs is to make sure that that policy works.
Okay. It will cost, apparently, according to the Institute of Fiscal Studies, 370,000 disabled people who will lose an average of £3,500 a year. I've got time for one more question. Sadiq Khan is a self-made man from humble beginnings. You inherited £200 million. How would you counter the accusation that you can't possibly be in touch with the normal people of London? Many people in this room are self-made people. How would you counter that accusation?
If you want to be a good MP or a good representative, you have to be able to understand the problems that people bring to you. You have to be willing and able to empathize with those problems, and you've got to be able to solve problems. Now, as an MP, the first thing that happens when you're elected is people come through your doors to your surgery with problems, with a very wide range of problems. Now, if in order to be able to solve those problems, you have to have experienced them directly yourself, then no one in this room, or indeed the country, could be a good MP. The first problem I dealt with was someone whose life had been wrecked by the European arrest warrant. A week later, I had someone whose life was being ruined by a Scotland Yard's witness protection scheme. I have people bringing me problems every single day, problems which I may have experienced, but problems on the whole I'm more likely than not to have experienced. My job is to understand those problems and help people solve them. And you know, 2 weeks before the last election, 2 weeks before the last general election, I had someone who wrote to me and said, "You have no idea what it's like to be wheelchair dependent and having to use public transport." To which the only answer is, "You're right, I don't depend on a wheelchair. Fortunately, that's not something that I have to do." But I asked him if he would take me for a tour of our public transport system. We went on buses, we went on the tube, we went on Southwest trains, we went all over London. And I experienced secondhand through him the problems he faces, and I promised him then that I would lobby the next mayor of London to prioritize making our system more accessible. At the time, I wasn't thinking of becoming the next mayor of London. Now that I am in the running to be the next mayor of London, I will honor that promise. I will lobby myself, and I'll make sure that this is a priority. But I don't believe you need to have experienced problems firsthand, every conceivable type of problem that is brought to you as an MP, in order to be a good MP. And my record as an MP shows that. That's why I got the biggest swing in my direction from my constituents of any MP in the country. That is testament to the fact that when I take a problem on, I solve it. And that's what you need to be in order to be an effective MP.
Okay. that's all we've got time for, unfortunately. But ladies and gentlemen, Zach GoldSmith.
Thank you very much.